Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you for joining us on 10-Minute Reviews, where we review in 10 minutes or less, typically authors or books, and that's what we're going to be doing today. And again, differing from our usual fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that, today I want to talk about an author that has one of my favorite series. His other stuff I really liked, and then they kind of went off the rails, and I'm not such a big fan of them. And became very formulaic clones of each other. But his core series, his original series, I'm a huge fan of. So please hit the like and subscribe buttons, by the way. We are always going to be talking about books. Comment if you have any books you would like us to read, or email us, or just comment if you just want to talk about a book. We're always more than happy to. The author I'm talking about is Andrew Vachss. Andrew Vachss. And he's an interesting author in that he's also a lawyer, and he's a lawyer that specializes in helping children that have been abused, and that kind of comes out in his books. The series I'm talking about are his Burke novels. The main character is named Burke. He is a criminal. All the characters in actually almost all of his books are criminals. In this case, Burke is basically a con man, former gunfighter. He's an ex-con. He's been to prison, and most of his world revolves around how trying to pull cons, basically just making money. Usually they try and make it off other criminals, but or just make it off crime. He's not an assassin or anything like that, although there are some characters that are. And then his family of criminals: Max the Silent, the Mongolian martial arts machine. You've got Michelle, the transvestite con artist. You've got the Mole, the genius inventor, and other characters that show up throughout. The prof, or the professor, or the prophet that taught Burke many of his ways, and they all have their quirks, I suppose you could call it, and they are their chosen family. They are family by choice. They all are damaged goods, and that's where a lot of Vachss' personal opinions, probably from New York and dealing with child abuse cases, come out. But most of his books deal with revenge, basically, on child abusers, and all of his books end up having these underworld criminal elements that are closest family, loyal to each other, call each other family, treat each other as family, so on and so forth. Typically, they all have a martial arts master, and so on and so forth. But the Burke books individually are really good, because they also oftentimes, the closest I would come would almost be calling them like a noir mysteries. Oftentimes there's a little bit of action in them, especially when you have things like Max the Silent showing up and doing a martial arts butt whooping, or Burke finally pulling out the guns, or later on Clarence the gunfighter showing up, or Burke's dog Pansy, the Neapolitan Mastiff. And if you want to know how big those are, just Google Neapolitan Mastiff. Those are some big darn dogs. The name Pansy is pretty amusing. And then other characters that show up throughout the books, but oftentimes there's usually some sort of mystery involved. That he almost gets hired as an off-the-books private investigator a lot of times. Like his first book, Flood, deals with a woman, goes by the name Flood, that is basically just looking for somebody that did her wrong, you could say. And she's a martial artist trained in Japan. This character, this bad guy, is a martial artist, and Burke helps her track the guy down. They resolve that, move on. She's a character that basically disappears from his life. Further books involve things, trying to track down child molesters, trying to track down kidnapped children, and just the things that go along with that. Trying to track down a serial killer, or a sniper, or dealing with the fact that he's a suspect in a string of crimes that, he did commit. He's a criminal. But just in general, it's very noir style writing, very dark, very gritty, very character driven. The characters are interesting. They're definitely interesting. It's an eclectic cast of characters. That is the best possible way I could put this. They are fascinating. They're absolutely fascinating. So if that's your kind of thing, noir, dark, action mystery oriented. Check it out. Check it out. I'm not saying you got to read the whole series. Once you get in about 3 or 4 books, you're going to be hooked because there's a few overarching plot lines and characters that are introduced. A lot of them do fade away, but there's some that cross over into the next book or even become part of the family. Clarence would be a great example. Or Terry, the child, or even the dog. The dogs become part of the family. It's pretty crazy. But it's, like I said, it's pretty intense, and it's definitely a lot of times deals with a more serious subject matter, but sometimes, again, just dealing with a serial killer he's trying to track down, and how he does it, which is almost always outside the law, which is why you hire people like that, right? If you need something done, you decide to hire criminals because you want them to do that in a criminal manner, which typically gives them more freedom as well. So, yeah, like I said, if you enjoyed this kind of stuff, and I did, it's a fantastic series. I didn't like his other stuff. The Cross books were okay up to a point, then introduced this mystical element that I just didn't like. And then he's got this other series with this French Foreign Legion guy, but again, you've got the whole child abuses a child, hates all of them, everybody's an abuser, family, family will do anything, will kill for our family. Every book starts being a clone. He's got one that's a bunch of homeless people. One happens to be a martial arts master, and they're a family. They're a found family that's loyal to the death to each other. And then the Cross books, they're a found family. They hate child molesters. They're all badasses, and it's just it starts to become repetitive. It really does, and it wasn't exciting reading any of his new stuff because it felt like just a lesser version of what I've already read. And the fact that I knew I would always know the character's motivation, would always know how the plot line is going to go because they were always carbon copies. It's almost like every 1-2 book series, a carbon copy. He's just changing names and some minor details. But the Burke series is very ongoing, very long. It's not ongoing. He ended it, but it's very long, and the formation of his characters he uses in further books. This is the first time, and they grow throughout the series, and they change, and things change throughout the series. And sometimes you have things. He wrote every book as an individual book, but there are some things that do end up carrying over. He may have meant to do that. He may have just finished the book and went, that's a really cool thing that I could use for the next book. Who knows? There's only one time that was very obvious that he ended one book in a way to start the next book from that ending. The rest of the time, when things would come back from a previous book, I think it was more of hey, that was a really cool thing I can bring back. But the characters grew. The series progressed. The family grew. The family changed. The family progressed. Some went some continued in crime. Some went straight. Some left the family. And again, very fascinating. He also has at least one book of short stories that is really cool. You got to check out Andrew Vachss short stories. So thank you everybody for watching. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons. We love doing this for you guys. And we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.